very important to understand the world you're working in so that you can adapt your idea to best suit the environment so that you can really compete with what else is out there.
A lot of you might be, interested in entrepreneurship, thinking about starting a business. Perhaps you don't quite know which direction you want to move to. You might be already working somewhere. We want to share with you some of the big trends, industry trends that we are seeing that hopefully will give you ideas about, hey, there's a space that might be interesting. If that's the trend, the direction in which the world is moving, maybe I have something to offer. So this next segment is really to ignite some ideas in your mind of what your venture could be if you are still thinking about that.
And to add to what Usha said, if you already have your idea, that doesn't mean time to switch off the brain. This will give you context. It's very important to understand the world you're working in so that you can adapt your idea to best suit the environment so that you can really compete with what else is out there. As Lynda outlined, and as we just discussed, when we receive market research requests, we really get to see what entrepreneurs are thinking about at the moment. So that gives us an opportunity to see trends as they're building. Additionally, when we write our market insights reports or blogs, we research the industries themselves. We do interviews and we read the reports and we reach out to startups. These market insights publications, Joe will tell you a bit more about them later, but these are free publications available on the Mars website that are great resources, and we highly recommend you take a look at those. So what major trends are we seeing? We're going to map out 4 major trends that we see applying to all industries or cross industries broadly, and then we'll each take a turn to discuss a major trend we're seeing in our industry itself.
There are definitely more than 4 trends, but we picked 4 because we thought it would start a nice discussion. So the first one is mass customization. And what this actually is we're going from a world where companies are mass producing products for consumers to buy to one where companies can potentially tailor and customize products for individual customers. So one easy way to think about it is when I log into my Facebook, what I see is probably totally different than what you see. Mass customization, it's here, more to come.
Yes, I'll take this one. Consumer empowerment, that is the next major trend we're seeing as well. Consumers have more power than ever before due to new technologies such as social media, mobile phones, and open and accessible data and information. Today's customer is getting used to instant gratification. They have more info at their fingertips than ever before, and they are more aware, and they're much more capable and willing to speak their minds. So companies have traditionally been teachers. So a lack of consumer knowledge, for example, is often cited by startups as one of the key barriers to market entry. But we need to look at this in a different way now, and it's customers are no longer just students in this company-customer relationship. So due to this movement, consumers are expecting a two-way dialogue now between brands, and they're expecting more personalization related to your mass customization topic. Yeah.
All right, so the third major trend we're seeing is towards proactivity or predictability. We're already seeing this in small ways. So if you think about when you're Googling something or you're picking up your phone, with Google, it's already filling in the rest of what you're typing in. Or when you pick up your phone, it's already curated news stories that it knows you'll be interested in, like the election results or the Blue Jays score right now. Companies are all looking at how they can now apply this same concept to other areas. They're developing ways to predict or be proactive around retail transactions, means of transportation, our living environments. They're really looking at how to use data to anticipate someone's needs and really create this ideal transaction or interaction that will be individual to that customer and really ensure a smooth, enjoyable interaction. So we're we want to reinforce that the data is often already out there. So much data is collected on each individual every day. If you think about your searches or your phone, a company just needs to figure out the best way to tap into that, to analyze it, find those patterns, and then put that good or service in place before the consumer even realizes they want or need it, to create that experience that they're willing to pay for.
So the final big change that we want to talk about is decentralization. And what it really means is just the distribution of power, functions, people. So one way to think about it is you think about your Uber or Airbnb experience. You can easily order a cab or find accommodation as easily, almost as easily as you can offer to be a cab driver or offering a place for someone to stay. Or think about another way where we can nowadays, with a lot of knowledge-based jobs, if you will, where we can work from home, telecommute. So it's actually fantastic where you don't have to go to an office to get all of your work done. And I think it's especially fantastic for my colleague Lynda over there, who is expecting her first baby.
Yeah, and Usha's been very kind. Thanks, Joe. Yeah.
So we're going to move into specific trends within particular sectors right now. And we'll start with you, Lynda.
Yeah, so as Joe just said, the world is trending small scale. And in the electricity sector, for example, quick to add options like distributed generation are ever more appealing to utilities and customers alike. Distributed resources further, like renewable energy resources, are making huge strides globally. And energy storage is also making huge leaps in progress. Through the smart grid, utilities can now match demand to load rather than the traditional matching of load to demand. They can now do both. And you now can see your electricity consumption data and use apps to help you make sense of your usage data, provide actionable insights to make changes to help you save energy on your bills. And your home is getting smarter. How many of you have a smart thermostat at home or smart locks? Or anybody have some smarts at home?
Yes.
Well, I thought there'd be more. I'm gonna put my hand. I have some. Well, there's much more of this to come, so look out for it.
All right, and in health, major trend we see is digital health. And now this might be a bit laughable because digital everything has been everywhere for ages now. But healthcare moves a bit slower. There's regulatory issues. They want to make sure things are safe, not doing harm, and ensure that your medical data is secure, private. But I look at digital health as more of an enabler, and it is really starting to get adopted. So you may have noticed your doctor, if you go to visit them, they're now typing into electronic medical records or otherwise taking notes digitally. And this isn't just a simplification or a digital process for the sake of it. It actually opens up a whole area of research that can now be done. Your data is captured in a way that it can be used if we allow it to, if we choose those options. But to look into the future, to imagine the hurdles aren't there. With everyone's health data aggregated, we can look at sort of computerizing the diagnostic process. So figuring out what clusters of symptoms are really tied to something. At the moment, it's kind of done ad hoc. People are figuring it out without this giant, massive data that they can analyze. It can help us understand what features of a disease appear first so that you can be proactive and take the steps you need to avoid having the full onset. It could also help doctors figure out ways to tailor your actual treatment to you as an individual, whether that's your medicine or your device or even just the steps they take in terms of treatment. But that's just the data portion. There's even more. So if you look at devices, in terms of digital health, both doctors and patients and everyone else in the healthcare community are adopting mobile devices to measure, to monitor, even to communicate between the patient and their circle of care, their doctors, other health professionals. So this is giving people the ability to receive the treatment they need where they happen to be, even if that's in a very remote community in the north. And lastly, I want to highlight a device, the wearable, that's brought about this concept of tracking your own health data and analyzing it yourself. And that really ties into the consumer empowerment, but in this case, patient empowerment. So now patients have their own data to bring to the table, their own analysis, and often they've done their own research around it. And that's changing the patient-doctor dynamic. So they're really demanding to have more of a say in the decisions that are made around their own care. So all in all, I see digital health as almost an enabler of those bigger trends we already discussed.
Last but not least, now there are usually lots of cool things happening in ICT, and Emily has already mentioned something about wearable, which is in some ways also tied to the ICT sector. Though if you think about it one level above, what really we're talking about is a trend that we call the Internet of Things. So what is Internet of Things? When you think about, for instance, the miniaturization of computers, what we can now do is basically embed computer into anything out there. So anything could potentially be a computing device. They potentially, depending on how sophisticated they are, could collect data, crunch data, communicate with each other. And we've already started it with our phones. So all of your phones are connected to the internet, can do all kinds of wonderful, wonderful things. But now it's moving into many other devices and things that are out there. There are experts out there who predict that there will be 50 billion devices connected to the internet by 2020. When you think about it, we have, what, a little bit more than 7 billion people in the world right now. So that's more than 7 times of devices being connected to the internet. And many entrepreneurs are trying to figure out, well, what can they do to unlock value from all these connections? Now, perhaps you're thinking, yes, it's hardware, it's maybe some devices that help monitoring your data, but it's not just that. There's also a software opportunity there. So you can think about maybe Apple Watch recently were launched, and also maybe Android Wear. That is, these are 2 competing app platforms that you can now use to develop your app. And as the old saying goes, you got to skate to where the puck is, right? And given how big this trend is, it's actually something that we've been studying for the past couple years. And our team collectively has written something we call the Connected World Market Insights series. And what we're trying to do really is to document how this connected world is going to change the world, how it's going to impact consumers, how it's going to impact businesses, and how it's going to impact the society at large. And we've written all kinds of topics from digital energy to, as Emily said, digital health. And we will continue to be producing lots and lots of content around this particular topic. So we encourage you to get the link and then check out some of the content yourself and really see how this trend is going to change the world. And speaking of changing the world, you've learned a little bit about research today. You learned a little bit about asking the right questions. And you also learned a little bit about trends. You might think you have a crazy idea, but which is the reason why we're leaving you with this quote from Steve Jobs. Because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. So try out your crazy ideas, go do some research, think about the trends. The world needs you to do this. Thank you.